I've been thinking lately about what deserves my life attention. And oddly enough, making these videos for my YouTube channel has brought that question into pretty sharp focus. Most of the time when I'm recording for YouTube, I'm sitting here in more or less the same place. I try to make sure the sound is decent, and I try to make sure that the lighting is good. I prepare what I want to say, and I take some time with that. Sometimes I'll record something twice, maybe 3 times, and I have been known to re-record 4 or even 5 times, though most of the time it's a first or second take. Sometimes I'll notice there's a book sitting on the sofa beside me that I didn't notice that's gotten into the frame. I'll do a re-record. Not always. Perhaps a top is a little too low cut. That demands an immediate change. Doesn't happen too often, but sometimes. Maybe there's some hairs out of place. I try not to worry too much about that. And sometimes my neighbor upstairs drops what I imagine to be a shoe on the floor when I'm in the middle of recording. There's other things that show up in the midst of recording. People going down the hallway outside, talking loud. The lawn maintenance company might arrive for the complex that I live in, and all of a sudden mowers and leaf blowers, and the garbage truck might come rumbling through, all sort of on their own accord. I never start off recording with that background noise going on. And sometimes I stop and I start up again. And sometimes I just keep going, because at some point I really have to ask myself, what exactly matters here? Does it matter that there was a thump from upstairs in the middle of something I was saying? Maybe the mic picked it up, maybe it didn't. Maybe it matters a little. Does it matter enough that I'm going to throw away something that felt alive and meaningful and try to reproduce it again perfectly a little farther down the line? Maybe not. Sometimes the life gets bled out of things by doing that. I'm not making an argument against doing things well. I'm really not. I care enormously about the work that I put into the world, and I care tremendously about people suffering and how we navigate life's most difficult times together. It really does matter to me. I want you to be able to hear me. I want what I'm saying to be coherent. I want these videos to be pleasant enough and engaging to watch. There's technology that allows me to do things I couldn't have imagined doing years ago, and I'm very grateful for that. But I'm also a regular human being going about my life. I wear different clothes from day to day, sometimes on repeat. You may have seen this shirt a couple of days ago, I'm not sure. My hair looks different from day to day. I could pay more attention to whether my lighting is exactly the same from video to video. But honestly, I don't change any of the baseline parameters. So you might notice if it's a cloudy day or a sunny one, because I record near a large sliding door. When I speak, my body moves. That's part of how I animate myself when I'm talking. And increasingly, I'm interested in the line between caring for the container, in this case YouTube videos, and becoming preoccupied with the container, in this case of YouTube videos. My time is finite, and so is yours. Our attention is finite, our energy is finite. And particularly when life has already asked a great deal of us in these very difficult times that we're navigating, whatever they may be for you or for me, well, I think it becomes worth asking, what deserves my life energy? I've spent decades working with people professionally, and I've lived through enormous periods of trauma, grief, loss, estrangement, betrayal, illness, along with profound changes in my own life personally. And those experiences have changed what I'm interested in spending my time on. What matters most to me now is being able to take what I've learned professionally and personally and offer something that might accompany another human being through some of the most difficult terrain they have maybe encountered in their entire lives. So if I'm halfway through saying something that feels important and somebody drops a shoe upstairs or whatever it is, I've got a decision to make. Do I allow that small imperfection to become more important than what I'm trying to communicate? Sometimes I'll decide to start again, and sometimes I'll just keep talking. That may sound like a very small thing, but if you've noticed anything like that in any of my videos anywhere, and it's grated on you, I want to let you know we're on the same team. I don't think how I handle this is actually a small thing at all. Think about it for a second. How often do we do some version of this in our own lives? How much energy do we spend trying to get the circumstances exactly right before we allow ourselves to fully inhabit what matters to us? How much of our lives get consumed by how something looks? How much of our life force gets caught up in how we're perceived? Whether we're doing it the way other people seem to be doing it or not, whether we've met some standard that we may not even have consciously chosen. And underneath all of that is a very human thinking mind, trying to figure out how to get it all right. Okay, you've heard this before if you follow me. There's nothing wrong with any of that. There really isn't. We need standards. We do. We need to learn things and practice things and sometimes do them over. We also need discernment. And I'm not saying that deciding that nothing matters or that anything is good enough is what we're aiming for here. Sometimes something needs another take, and sometimes something needs more preparation. Sometimes we need to learn more, practice more, pay closer attention, or begin again. Discernment matters. But here's the distinction that's become so important to me. Our best discernment comes from capacity, and capacity isn't something an overwhelmed thinking mind can reliably manufacture by thinking harder. Capacity becomes available in conscious awareness. This is where the teachings around conscious awareness, capacity, and choice become enormously practical for me. Maybe for you too. Conscious awareness isn't something separate from ordinary life. It isn't reserved for a meditation cushion or a quiet room where nobody drops a shoe upstairs. It's foundational to this life we live, along with our constant companion, the thinking mind. And when we recognize that foundation of conscious awareness, capacity becomes available. And from capacity, we're better able to discern what actually matters. And from that discernment, we're better able to make choices about where we want to place our finite time, attention, and energy. So here's the short matrix: conscious awareness, capacity, discernment, and choice. And no, discernment isn't another formal step that I'm adding to the 3 C's of conscious awareness, capacity, and choice. It's just another something capacity makes possible. Because when capacity is available, the thinking mind can do what it does extraordinarily well. It can evaluate, compare, consider consequences, use what we've learned from experience, notice what needs attention, decide when something really isn't good enough, as well as decide what stays. That's very different from asking an overwhelmed thinking mind to keep thinking harder until it somehow arrives at some level of certainty. So for me, sometimes good discernment means recording the video again, and sometimes it means leaving the damn shoe in it. There's something else underneath all of this that matters, I think, enormously. I don't want to spend my life preparing to live it. I don't want to spend the time I have making everything look as though there isn't a real human being living behind it. There is. I'm right here. There are books on my sofa sometimes. There are people going up and down my hallway sometimes, being quite loud, and my mic picks it up sometimes. There are garbage trucks arriving at inopportune times. There are different clothes and different hair and different energy on different days. There's a body that moves around when I speak, and there's a life being lived while I'm making these videos. That's the person I want you to meet. The person who you can relate to. Oh, she's living a life and she's been through some things. And that's who I want to meet in you. There's no need to impress me. I'm sure you have impressive credentials in all kinds of areas, all the way down the line. I'm interested in your humanity, where it hurts, what matters about that to you, and how much I might be able to support and help. Authenticity doesn't mean we should stop caring about quality, but I want quality to serve what matters rather than have quality actually become the thing that matters. It's a question worth carrying into much more than making a YouTube video. Where in your own life are you spending enormous amounts of energy trying to perfect the container? And what is the thing inside the container that actually matters to you? Maybe there's been something that you've been waiting to begin, something you've been afraid to say or do or be, something you think you need to know more about before you attempt it. Maybe you're waiting to feel more confident or more certain or more prepared or more healed. Maybe you're waiting for life to quiet down or for some energy to show up or for somebody to change. And maybe some of these things genuinely do need more time, and maybe some don't. That's why discernment matters. Not to be seen or experienced as one more demand to figure everything out perfectly. It's more about what's available to us when we have the capacity to actually meet what's here. And for me, that takes us back to conscious awareness, because conscious awareness is foundational. Capacity becomes available there. It's where it is. And from capacity comes our best discernment. Discernment helps us see more clearly what matters, what doesn't, what needs our attention, what can be left alone, what needs more time, and what might be ready now for us to encounter. And then we have greater access to choice. That's not something separate from ordinary life. This is ordinary life, what we're doing right now. This is not a performance. Sometimes the choice is about how we navigate grief. Sometimes it's about a relationship. Sometimes it's about our health. Sometimes it's about whether something needs more time or more care or more attention. Sometimes it's about whether I'm going to re-record an otherwise perfectly good video for the fourth time because somebody upstairs dropped a shoe or I stumbled over a couple of words and maybe mispronounced something. The circumstances can be wildly different, but the underlying movement is remarkably similar, remarkably consistent. Conscious awareness gives us access to capacity, and capacity gives us access to better discernment, and discernment helps open the way to choice. And then we go about living our lives. So maybe we don't need to know how to get all of this exactly right? The answer to that question of what deserves my energy right now changes as we navigate the smaller moments as well as the larger movements of life that are presented to us. That's certainly been true for me. And these days, if I have to choose between spending another hour trying to make something look perfect and using that hour to say something that might actually matter to another human being, I increasingly know which one I'm going to choose. And if you hear the occasional thump from upstairs while I'm doing it, well, now you may understand a little more of why I kept talking in that video, so that those background indiscretions in a YouTube video or elsewhere, they didn't get edited. Thanks for being here today. It's really, as always, been a pleasure and a delight. I'll see you soon. I also want to mention I've got some free stuff for you. Just click on any of the links above or below this video for more info. See you soon.